The first thing I heard that morning was the rain. Not a soft drizzle, but a steady, deliberate rhythm, like the world itself was reminding me I was alone. I sat in the driver's seat of my rusted-out Subaru, staring at the outline of a cabin that looked less like a home and more like something a horror movie crew would use for a final scene. The windows were boarded, the front door leaned sideways like it had given up, and the roof sagged under its own weight. But it was mine, all $1,200 of it, paid in full, no mortgage, no cosigner, no family approval. Just me. I shifted into park and cut the engine. The silence that followed was almost deafening, like it wanted to fill every crack they'd left inside me. I reached into the back seat and grabbed the folding chair I always kept there, meant for writing retreats, lake views, small pauses, and big days. But today it felt like armor. I opened it right there on the gravel and sat down, not caring that my boots sank into the mud or that my jeans were already damp. I wasn't going anywhere. Not now. Not after what they did. It had been 6 days. Just 6 days since I sat across from my parents at their dinner table in Boulder. The table that still had the scratch marks I left as a kid when I etched my name under the surface, hoping to leave something permanent in a house where I never felt like I belonged. The roast was dry, the wine overly sweet. My mother, Diane, was holding court, her voice filled with pride that wasn't earned but expected. "Marina's retreat will be so healing," she said, swirling her glass like we were in Napa instead of a middle-class dining room with flickering overhead lights. "She's been under so much stress this year. Honestly, she deserves this. Marina, my sister," nodded with the grace of someone who knew the world would bend for her. "Sedona's energy is just right now. I've already booked the sound baths and the crystal mapping. I just need to confirm the transfer." She looked at me then, not with hope but certainty, like she knew I'd cave. I always did. "My father, Roger," leaned in, his voice calm, rehearsed. "June, you said you'd wire the funds last week. What's the holdup?" I didn't lift my fork. I didn't fake a smile. I just said it. I didn't transfer the money. I bought something. The room shifted, like someone had unplugged the moment. Marina froze mid-sip. My mother's wine glass hovered midair. My dad's mouth twitched into a warning. "You bought something?" "A cabin," I said. "It's in Elk Ridge. It needs work, but it's mine." There was a full 10 seconds of silence before Marina let out a sharp, breathy laugh. "You bought a shack instead of helping me reset? That's so on brand for you." "I never agreed to fund your retreat," I replied. "I just didn't say no." Out loud. My mother put down her glass with a controlled thud. "You've clearly chosen delusion over family. I hope that place keeps you warm when you realize what you've lost." I opened my mouth to speak, but my father raised his hand. "You want to be on your own," he said, eyes steady. "Then be on your own. Completely." The next morning, I woke up to find my name gone from the family group chat. Easter plans, updated. Attendees, everyone but me. That was 6 days ago. Now here I was sitting in front of the warped, sagging doorway of a home that no one wanted but me, and somehow still waiting for the ache to subside. The rain softened, the trees whispered, and in that moment I realized something they hadn't expected me to. I wasn't hurt because they let me go. I was hurt because I finally saw they were never holding me in the first place. The room smelled like overcooked meat and lavender cleaner. I had barely touched the roast on my plate, which bled pink near the center, even though my mother insisted it was perfectly done. I kept my eyes low, tracing the crack in the old china dish as Marina laughed softly at something my father had said. They always positioned her at the center of the table, direct line to the head seat, framed perfectly under the chandelier, like she was the portrait of the family and I was the clutter in the background they forgot to crop out. Mom leaned forward, topping off Marina's wine. "You're going to love Sedona. The resort's booked out for months. Lucky we got your spot." She smiled with a kind of quiet pride I hadn't seen in years, not for me. Marina nodded, pushing a lock of hair behind her ear in that performative way she did when she knew someone was watching. The universe aligned. It's what I need right now. I mean, after everything I've done for this family, a little realignment is hardly too much to ask. She didn't say what she'd done. No one ever did. They just let it hang there like it was obvious. Dad wiped his mouth and looked at me, folding his napkin with surgical precision. June, you said you'd handle the payment. Have you processed it yet? I didn't look at him. I didn't look at Marina. I just said it plain. No, I bought a house. The cutlery stopped. Marina's glass paused midair. Even the fridge seemed to hum louder as if listening in. You what? My mother said. It's a cabin, I replied, feeling my heart pound harder with every syllable. Up in Elk Ridge. Needs a lot of work. But it's mine. There was silence, then the softest scoff from Marina. You bought a junk house? She let out a tiny laugh and looked to Mom, eyes wide. Instead of helping me, I never promised I would, I said quietly. I just didn't say no. Mom set down her wine glass. So you used the savings your father helped you set aside. What? To run off and play lumberjack? Dad's voice was calm but cold. You always did like chasing lonely things. I blinked. It wasn't your money. He leaned back in his chair, fingers steepled. But it was meant for something greater than this. Marina smirked. You should have seen the photos I sent her of the spa suite. She said nothing, not a word, and then goes and buys a shack. It's not a shack, I snapped. It's mine. For once, I did something for me. Mom pushed her chair back. You've clearly chosen poverty. Don't expect us to sponsor your bad decisions. Who asked you to? Dad raised a hand. Enough. You want independence, June? Fine. But that means no group chat, no invites, no support. I opened my mouth to speak, but something inside me just folded. Not fear, not even hurt, just exhaustion. And maybe something colder too. The next morning, I checked my phone. A new message lit up the screen, plain and brutal. Do not come to Easter. Mom, no love, Mom. No explanation. Just that. An erasure. I didn't reply. I didn't beg. I just deleted the message and drove. 3 hours later, I was standing in front of a sagging roof and broken porch, holding the keys to my mistake. But in that moment, it felt more honest than any dinner we'd ever had. The lock fought me, even though I had the key. It stuck halfway, like it didn't trust me yet. I jiggled it gently, then with more force, until it finally gave way with a heavy clunk. The door creaked open slow, too slow, revealing a narrow hallway swallowed in dust and dim light. My boots hit the warped floorboards with a dull thud. Every step echoed, like the house was whispering back at me. There was no smell of home, just mildew, wet wood, and something sharp, like rot hiding behind the walls. I stood in the center of the room for a long time, just breathing, listening, trying to decide if I'd been brave or just stupid. Then I walked to the trunk of my car, pulled out the single blue floral curtain I'd kept since college, and carried it inside like it was something holy. I found the one window in the front room that wasn't boarded shut and climbed on a rusted stool to hang it. The rod slipped. The bracket popped loose, and everything crashed to the floor. I sat down on the linoleum, cracked, peeling, cold, and leaned back against the wall, rubbing my elbow where it hit. My breath caught in my throat, too sharp to swallow. Then it hit me. Not the pain, the memory. I was 16. It was my birthday. Mom had gathered everyone in the living room. Cake in hand, candles lit. Marina had helped decorate with balloons that didn't match. It was sweet, really, until I saw the cake. Happy birthday, Rowena. 1N. I'd been correcting people my whole life. June with an E. But not one of them remembered. Not even that day. Marina had gotten a used Volkswagen for her 16th. Dad had handed her the keys in the driveway like she'd just cured cancer. You deserve this, he'd said, after all your hard work. She had a C average. I had a 4.0 and a laminated scholarship letter from Columbia, and all I got was a promise. Maybe next year, honey. That had been the start of it, or maybe just the first time I noticed. There were Christmas cards where I was always off to the side, family photos where I was half cropped out, birthday card signed "Love you girls," but only Marina's name was underlined. I remembered being left behind on the Florida trip because there wasn't enough room in the car. I was 28. At some point, you stop calling it forgetfulness. You start realizing it's a choice. I blinked hard. My hands are trembling, but not from the cold. From memory. They never screamed. Not once. They just erased me. Slowly. Quietly. Like gently deleting a file no one needed anymore. "You're too intense," Mom used to say when I asked why no one came to my debate finals. Let things go. But when Marina got voted best hair in high school, they framed the certificate and hung it next to the front door. I'd won a state-level writing contest that same year. Dad said, "Don't gloat. It's not polite." So I didn't. I just tried harder. I thought if I worked enough, they'd see me. If I stayed quiet enough, they'd include me. If I gave enough, they'd finally call me part of this family without conditions. But some families don't need to shout to hurt you. They just pretend you were never really there to begin with. The radiator hissed to life suddenly, loud and startled like it had woken up too. I jumped, my hand flying to my chest. I stood slowly and made my way into the kitchen, if you could call it that. No cabinets, no appliances, just exposed plumbing and a chipped counter stained by time and ghosts. I sat on the floor again, back against the empty fridge. This wasn't a house. Not yet. But it was mine. No one could kick me out of it. No one could say I didn't belong, even if it smelled like mildew and disappointment. I was midway through unscrewing a rusted panel from the back porch steps when I heard the sound. Heels. Not the scuffing kind. Sharp ones. Intentional ones. The kind that announced a person before they ever knocked. At first, I thought maybe a neighbor. Maybe someone from town, coming to check if the new girl needed help. But when I peeked through the broken curtain, my stomach didn't just drop, it sank. Marina, in a cream-colored coat that looked like it cost more than my plumbing repairs, oversized sunglasses glinting in the late afternoon light. Her lips curved into that effortless smirk she reserved for situations she thought she was winning. She didn't wait for me to open the door. Instead, she turned her head, deliberately, and raised her voice just enough to carry to the neighbor walking her dog on the far side of the gravel road. "Mom says she's really let herself go," she said with a polite chuckle. "But you know how some people just need their little rebellions." Then she knocked. 3 times. Sharp. Like punctuation. I didn't rush. I took my time, wiped my hands on the hem of my shirt, and opened the door just as she shifted her weight dramatically from one heel to the other. "Well," she said, with exaggerated brightness, "there she is. The homeowner." She stretched the word like taffy. I folded my arms, surveying the wildlife. She tilted her head. "You don't have to be defensive. I'm just checking in. You've kind of dropped off the grid." "You mean after you told Mom I was mentally spiraling and hoarding in a shack?" Her smile faltered. "For just a second. I never said that. You said I was unstable." I said, "I was worried," she corrected, eyes darting to the roof. "You're surviving, though. Look at you. You're still doing that blog thing, right? What's it called? Grant Whispers." "Grant Whispering," I muttered. She laughed. "Cute." Then her tone shifted, like she was switching costumes backstage. "Listen, I'm actually in a bit of a bind." There it was. "A pipe burst at the spa," she continued, sweeping a manicured hand through the air like she was swatting away inconvenience. "It's a mess. 3 of my sound bath sessions had to be canceled. I just need a night or 2 until it's fixed." I stared. "Here." She gave the porch rail a gentle tap with her fingertip, like she wasn't sure if it would bite. "I can sleep anywhere. Even this." It's rustic. It has character. And mold, I said. She laughed. Come on, Ro. Be serious. I wouldn't ask if it wasn't important. You reported me to the HOA, didn't you? She blinked, then looked away almost convincingly. I may have mentioned that this area has standards. I didn't answer. She sighed dramatically. Okay, fine. I'll crash one night. Promise I won't be in your way. I'll even clean. I stepped aside slowly. One night, I said. Don't touch anything. Her face lit up like I'd just handed her keys to a castle. You're the best. Seriously, you always were. It's why people walk all over you. She swept past me, her perfume trailing behind like an invasion. I stood there a while longer, watching the path she took, heels tapping on my rotting floorboards like she owned the place. That night I couldn't sleep. I wasn't scared, not of the dark or the wind or the creaking walls. I was waiting, and when I woke up to the sound of laughter, not warm, but bright and fake and sharp, I knew exactly where it was coming from. The kitchen. I pulled on a sweater, padded down the hallway, and stopped cold at the doorway. There she was, ring light set up, full face of makeup, speaking into her phone with a sparkling tone that didn't belong in my house. Hey, angels. So I wanted to give you a peek at where my sister's been living. She's been through so much. It's kind of fixer, but we love a transformation, right? She panned the camera toward the sink, toward the cracks, toward me. I stood there, silent. Her phone screen chimed with comments. Someone wrote, "Is that a shelter?" She laughed. "No, sweetie. It's my sister's house." I know. Tragic. She didn't even flinch, didn't blink. The sound of her laughter still clung to the walls like smoke. I stood frozen in the doorway, watching her stage my pain like it was her redemption arc. She didn't notice me at first. The ring light cast a sterile glow on the chipped counter. My dented kettle had been pushed aside, replaced by a curated set of oat milk, granola bars, and a fake eucalyptus candle that definitely wasn't mine. She was smiling, lips glossy, voice sugar-soaked. "This fridge hasn't worked since the Clinton era," she quipped, giving it a soft kick. Honestly, it's giving generational trauma. The comment section chimed again. I could hear the artificial joy flooding from her phone. "Is that your sister?" someone asked. She tilted the camera, panning toward me. "Yep," she said brightly. "That's her. Look at those slippers. It's giving Great Depression chic." Something in me cracked. Not shattered. Not broke. Snapped. I walked in slow, quiet as fog, and reached for the phone without a word. The pop socket let out a pop as I yanked it free from the tripod. She gasped. "Hey, what are you doing?" I looked her dead in the eyes. "You want content?" I said flatly, "Here it is. Get out before I give them the story they actually deserve." Her expression twisted, voice rising. "I was trying to help. Maybe get donations. This place clearly needs it. You mocked me. In my own home. I held the phone like it was diseased. You made me a prop." She snatched her purse off the chair, collected her makeup bag, still performing. "This is what I get for being a good sister," she said, loud enough for whatever imagined audience might still be watching. The door slammed behind her, rattling the frame. I stood there for a long time, the phone still in my hand, the hum of the ring light fading like a dying star. My hands were shaking, not from fear, from fury, and something else I hadn't felt in a long time, freedom. Later that day, the first notification came. GoFundMe campaign. Help my sister rebuild. There I was on the banner image, caught mid-step, carrying a garbage bag, hair tied back, sweat on my brow. A second photo showed me curled on the couch, wrapped in the quilt Aunt Maeve gave me after the fallout. The caption read like a eulogy. "My baby sis has been through so much. Help me give her the life she deserves." Raised, $18,340 recipient, Marina Vale withdrawals. linked to her wellness business PayPal. My vision blurred. She had turned me into a charity project. Monetized my pain. I paced the room like a trapped animal. Slammed a mug on the table, so hard it cracked. My jaw clenched so tight I thought something in me would break. I clicked into the comment section. "You're such a good sister. I sent $50. Hope she heals. This world needs more people like you." Marina hadn't said a word to me about it. Not when she left that morning, wiping fake tears. Not in any of her healing journey posts. I opened our last text thread. Blank. I tried reporting the fundraiser. The platform replied, "This campaign does not violate our community guidelines." Of course it didn't. She was good at this. Crafting half-truths, letting people assume the worst, and cashing in on their assumptions. My phone buzzed again. New message. From someone I didn't know. Username, legal_Senator Kohei. I saw the GoFundMe. You didn't authorize that, did you? I blinked. I'm a paralegal. Colorado Bar certified. This could qualify as civil exploitation. Possibly even wire fraud, depending on how the funds were framed. Want to talk receipts? I stared at the message. My chest didn't tighten. It didn't ache. It just steadied. For the first time in weeks, I felt a flicker of something I thought I'd lost entirely. Control. I typed one word. Yes. She responded instantly. Cool. Start with screen recordings. Capture timestamps. Don't confront her publicly yet. Trust me. I switched my phone to do not disturb, pulled up the footage, and started gathering everything. Not just to defend myself, but to dismantle the story she built out of my suffering. The glass walls shimmered under the golden hour light, casting reflections of eucalyptus centerpieces and curated smiles. Inside the glasshouse pavilion, everything looked perfect. Manufactured serenity, brand-approved grace. Marina stood center stage in a sage-green gown that caught the light just right, her hair curled like it had never seen real wind. Her voice carried through the space like a wellness podcast. Smooth, confident, sanitized. "Thank you for coming, beautiful souls," she said, clasping her hands together in practiced humility. "Tonight's about healing, about family, about choosing love, especially when it's hard." I sat at the back, unnoticed, on purpose. My navy dress was simple. No designer tag, no stylist, just something clean and steady like armor. I wore the silver locket Mom once called flea market junk. Tonight it felt like a shield. Beside me, a text buzzed quietly on my phone. Courier confirmed. Envelope in position. I looked toward the stage. Her assistant hovered nervously at the edge of the spotlight, clutching a thick manila envelope. On cue, Marina continued, smiling into the lights. "We've raised over $25,000 through our outreach initiative to help displaced women rebuild. And I'm proud to share my sister's story, a story of transformation." The assistant stepped forward. Marina paused, smile faltering. The envelope was handed to her, center stage, in front of 100 guests and a live streaming audience of thousands. She opened it, fingers trembling just slightly. A cease and desist. Full legal breakdown. Screenshots. Fund routing. False claim statements. HOA complaints. Fabricated grant forms with my name forged as a displaced beneficiary. Her smile froze. Someone in the crowd murmured. The live chat on the screen beside her began to flicker. "What is that?" "She looks panicked." "OMG, this is live?" She tried to continue. There's been a misunderstanding." But the screen behind her, set up for her usual slideshow of gratitude letters and healing quotes, flickered to a new image. A screenshot from her private messages. Let her rot in that dump. I gave them the GoFundMe link for PR. Gasps. Phones rose like a digital forest. Another image. She's good for sympathy points. Keep the cameras low. Show the cracks. The audience didn't move. She stammered. Tried to laugh. It's a tech issue, obviously. These aren't real. But her voice cracked on the word real. Another murmur. Then silence. And then a chair scraped. Aunt Evelyn, in a charcoal blazer and low heels, scheduled to speak about resilience. She stepped onto the stage slowly, one hand steady on the railing, and stood beside Marina without looking at her. I was asked to share a few words about healing, she said, her voice calm but ironclad. About family. Marina looked at her, eyes pleading, but Evelyn didn't turn. For years, she continued, this family wore a mask, smiled in public, shamed in private. We built a pedestal for one daughter while quietly cutting the other down. The room held its breath. I won't pretend anymore. Evelyn looked straight into the crowd. Tonight, I stand not with what's beautiful on paper, but with what's right. Then she walked down the steps, crossed the room, and wrapped me in an embrace so firm I nearly collapsed. Not out of weakness, but because I had waited 34 years for someone, anyone in that family, to see me. The cameras flashed. Guests murmured. Some stood. Some clapped. And Marina? She fled. Her heels clicked furiously across the marble floor, dress snagging on a chair, a perfectly lit ghost vanishing into the exit doors. I didn't chase her. I didn't even turn. I just closed my eyes and exhaled. For once, the silence in the room didn't belong to me. It belonged to her. The morning light slid through the kitchen window in soft gold streaks, painting faint rectangles across the newly sanded floor. The smell of fresh paint still lingered faintly, mixing with something warmer. Coffee brewing on the counter would polish the faint sweetness of cut grass drifting in through the screen door. I stood barefoot in the kitchen, sweater sleeves pulled over my hands, cradling a chipped mug filled with too strong coffee. The quiet wasn't oppressive anymore. It didn't echo. It held. Outside, the neighborhood kids had already begun their Saturday ritual. Chalk drawings on the sidewalk, neon suns and crooked hearts lining the concrete like confetti. One of them had scribbled in shaky bubble letters, "You matter." Another, "Welcome home." I smiled without hesitation, without checking over my shoulder. The cabin wasn't done. Not really. The windows still needed sealing. The porch railing wobbled when the wind hit it just right. But it didn't feel temporary anymore. It felt like mine. A place I didn't have to justify, or shrink to fit inside, or beg to stay in. I wiped down the table, set out lemonade and brownies for the small community, clean up, weed organized. One of the neighbors, Donna, was already out front tying garbage bags beside the mailbox. She waved when she saw me, a wide, toothy grin under her straw hat. I waved back. Then my phone buzzed. I almost ignored it, but something in me, an old reflex maybe, made me pick it up. Text message, Marina, hey. Things have been rough. Any chance we could crash with you for a while, just until we figure stuff out? No apology, no acknowledgement, just an expectation that I would forget everything, that I would hand over what little I'd built, that I was still her safety net. I stared at the screen for a long time, not angry, not hurt, just stunned by the audacity. The same girl who once laughed about my junkyard shack now wanted to take shelter under its roof. I set the phone down beside the lemonade pitcher, didn't reply, didn't pace, didn't rehearse a speech I'd never send. Instead, I walked into the entryway. Hung above the coat rack was a simple wooden frame. Inside it, a photo of me at 8 years old, standing awkwardly on stage in a paper crown and glitter-glued costume. In the background, blurry but unmistakable, was Aunt Maeve, clapping like her life depended on it. Beneath the glass, in soft black ink, were the words, "You always had the light, Jay." I touched the glass lightly. No tears, just peace. Then I picked up my phone and typed the only response that felt right. "There's no space for lies here anymore. I wish you peace." And I sent it. No punctuation, no fanfare. Outside, The kids screamed with laughter as someone drew a giant yellow sun that stretched across 3 driveway panels. I stepped onto the porch and took a long breath. The cabin I bought for $1,200 wasn't my shame anymore. It was my beginning. I had spent so long trying to earn a seat at a table that was never meant for me, bowing, softening, bending just to be tolerated. But here, I had built something else. They wanted a key, but I had already built a door, and behind it, finally, was a life that belonged to me.